for a while, I really struggled finding an opening. I liked first e4 as black, and I wanted to share this opening, the accelerated dragon, as one solution for people that are like lazy, but also they're combative. So if you're lazy on theory, but you're also a combative player, it's very hard to find something because typically, if you play something that's low theory, it's not combative, or it's just bad. And you're trying to find the right mix is very hard. So yeah, versus e4, um, I had some requirements. So I didn't like when my opponents they got their pawns to e5. I didn't like these massive like this thing because it normally leads to a kingside attack. I don't like getting attacked on the kingside, to be honest, and especially an opening where like White's main plan is to do that. I mean, you have to learn how to defend, but like this is White's plan. Like it's their only like objective, and they just throw everything at you, and you just get mated. So I wanted to avoid that, and you just avoiding the pawn to e5 is one way to avoid that, just right out of the opening. So that cuts out the French and Caro. That basically leaves you with e5 and Sicilian. And in the Sicilian, White does get a lot of attacks, but you get counterattacks, so you get counterplay, and it's not like easy for White to attack. Um, I'm kind of oversimplifying things, but yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, one option is a Najdorf, and basically all my problems with a lot of these Sicilians were the anti-Sicilians and how like people can move order you and stuff. So for example, against the Sicilian, one popular option for White is the Alpin, so c3 Sicilian. And you had to do something against d4. So you can go, let's say you play d5. I play knight f6. Let's say you play d5. That's great. But if you play a Najdorf, your opponent plays knight f3, d6, they can play c3. And this is a different ballgame. You cannot go d5 in one go anymore. So yeah, you have to learn this like fianchetto stuff. So you have to learn two things. I don't want to learn two things. I'm just lazy. Your opponent, they can play knight c3. You play d6. f4 is actually quite strong here. It turns out it's just like annoying because you don't get to go e6 and d5 in one go. If you play knight c6 here, then you do get to go e6 and d5 in one go to get your counterplay against f4. It makes sense to face a wing attack in the center. But White can go knight f3 here. And so some people, they're happy, they go e5, they shut down the open ceiling. But again, this is one line to learn as black. I don't want to learn another line. I'm lazy. So some people, they play g6 here. And they're happy to play the accelerator dragon, except they don't want to face the Maroczy. So the Maroczy is when we get this when White gets the space advantage with c4. So they try to force the knight c3 in order to avoid this. But yeah, so they're okay with playing the accelerator dragon there, but they just don't like the Maroczy. But basically, what that means is if you're fine playing the Maroczy, like the accelerator dragon's a good opening. So you just have to find something against the Maroczy. And yeah, the Maroczy is better for White, but I think one thing I've learned is that it's okay to have like one or two lines that are a little bit better for White if you know them better, especially if you're like me. So I'm like 2000 on chess.com. If I know them better than my opponents, so I win. So yeah. So that's a brief overview. I mean, the Sveshnikov and other things, their options, they have similar problems. The Sveshnikov has the same problem. I'll show really quick. So the Sveshnikov is e5 here. But yeah, White can start out with knight c3, here, here, and they haven't committed to d4 yet. Knight f6, you want to play for this e5 business. This apparently is strong. It scores pretty well for White. It's like 34%. So yeah, that's just a minor thing. Also, this special has a lot of theory. I'm lazy, so the accelerator dragon kind of works. So yeah, let's first go over the point of the accelerator dragon. So the point is this d5 break. So there's another opening called the dragon, and it goes a little something like this. So g6, also just this fianchetto is just the most natural thing. Like, it's so nice. You put a rook on c1, you just sack the exchange on c3, and you coordinate on this weak pawn. It's all good. But yeah, it turns out this opening has a little bit of a problem. And it's a white setup here. This is called the English attack setup, or the this is a Yugoslav attack. That's what it is. And yeah, this is quite annoying to face. So there's two moves here for white. One is bishop c4. That has the goal of stopping pawn at d5. The other move is 9 long castles. And black's only move here to equalize is d5. There's also another interesting move, which is g4. And the point is, if you go d5 here, you go g5, and then your defense is lost. It's kind of funny. But yeah, the reason why black so desperately wants to go d5 is because white's attacking on the wing, and our counterplay is a little bit slow. White's counterplay comes first, and the reason why is because we pushed this to g-pawn, and it's a hook for the h-pawn. So we should try to stir something up in the center before it's too late. It turns out this position is like, I mean, everything is a draw according to the computer, but I don't like getting attacked, so I don't really like playing this as black. And the other thing is white's plan is just so easy. Just push the h-pawn. I mean, you can memorize all this theory, and white might not know anything, and you might reach the end of your theory, and white knew nothing the whole time, and you were like, you had it all prepped and everything, but white just, they pushed the h-pawn, and in a database, that's just theory. So, yeah. But the beauty of the accelerated dragon is by playing knight c6 instead of d6, if white goes for this setup, you get d5 in one go. So you save a whole tempo, and this makes a huge difference. This makes all the difference. This is better for black here. I think white has some way to equalize, but it's, I mean, your opponents are not expecting you to equalize. They expect an easy game when they're going for the setup, and they don't get it. Yeah, one minor thing is if they castle, I feel like typically taking here normally works for me. It just gives you a square for the bishop. There's normally some tactics like along with bishop g4. So yeah, so just to show this, I want to show a game versus 1600 USCF I played over the board. And they knew about, they probably saw I might have tried to go for d5, so they went bishop c4. Or in the regular dragon with d6, with this, they might play this as part of their theory or something. So yeah, they went bishop c4. And I went queen b6. So this is just something you need to know. So there's all these tricks in the accelerated dragon, and it's so good for over the board chess. Like, I just blitz this out, and the guy's sitting there for like 5 minutes figuring out what's going on. So he goes bishop b3, knight takes e4. And this is actually equal for white if they know the move knight d5, queen a5, c3, and then you just retreat with the knight somewhere. But he didn't find it. I mean, he was just bamboozled by this move, I guess. So he went knight c2, and yeah, I went queen a5 to avoid any discoveries, and then I came back, and I just have the 2-pawn center. And yeah, the rest of this game, it just played itself. I mean, like, I basically didn't have to think. I didn't use my brain at all, except for one final like sequence. So I went queen a6 because I kind of wanted to like play d5 to open up the center, but I didn't want to trade queens. Apparently this is a good move. I don't know how I feel about it, but yeah, g5, knight h5, and then I went d5 here, and I just found a small tactic. So I found a small tactic. So bishop e6, we take, and the point of this is at the end of the line, 2 pieces are hanging. So yeah, and then I found a maneuver to defend f7 and defend the bishop from this. This knight e6 covers both. So yeah. So yeah, I'll link a video in the description with that explains like all the tricks. There's like, this is one of them. This queen b3 trick, and yeah, I'll link a video that covers all of them. So let's go over the typical plans. So the first plan I want to show. So this is the Maroczy setup with c4. So plan number 1 is I'm just kind of making some random moves for white. Is to trade off the bit to trade off the knights. We want to trade pieces because we're low on space. Normally white play like a knight c2 and they avoid this trade. But if they let you do this, this is kind of the idea. So first you go bishop c6. The point is, I've learned from some like IMs or GMs is from some videos and books, is the point is to attack e4, so they play f3. And now they can't go f4. And this will be revealed in a sec why we don't want them to go f4. Is you go knight d7. And strong players, they will avoid this trade with bishop e3 or something. Actually, there's this b4 move. So yeah, it turns out here this bishop's actually like stuck. So you might want to throw in an a5 first. But yeah, anyways, yeah, knight d7. And strong players, they'll avoid the trade. But most people, they just take it. And basically, what you leave white with, well, first of all, you traded a piece, so that's always good because of the space disadvantage. Normally, in these Sicilians, you don't like this. It's only an achievement for white to trade this, but yeah, we didn't let them play f4, so they're not attacking us. So because they're not attacking us, losing our defender of the king is not a bad idea, and they're left with this terrible bishop. Typically, white will go knight t5, and you can take this one, and white will take with the e-pawn. And this is like a typical situation where you claim you have the better minor piece, which you do, and white claims they have some weakness to attack. And it's just the game of chess. And you can like kind of take a crack at the queen side as well. Yeah, normally white doesn't allow this. So I will show the opening that I play that forces a couple pieces off the board, and is I'm not sure if it's considered the best, but I'm pretty sure it's one of. I think these days it might be the only like way like the top guys would even consider playing the accelerated dragon. So yeah, so instead of bishop g7 here, which is very natural and is the main move, it's like number one, and this is number two. Knight f6, knight f3. And you can go d6 here, but there is this option of knight c2 to avoid the trade. So I just take here. Supposedly bishop g5 is strong according to some books, but it's like computer-wise and database-wise, it's okay. It's the point of according to like the Selman book that I read on the accelerated dragon, you play d6, so that way bishop g5 isn't as strong. But I don't know, it seems okay. Okay, so you swap off a pair of knights by force in the opening. That's good because we have less space. So now they develop their pieces. We castle. They run because knight g4 was a threat. So there's two ideas here as black. So the first one is this bishop e6 idea. So it's bishop e6, queen a5. So one thing about queen a5 is that there's always this idea of knight d5, and then taking, and then this intermezzo knight e7. And in this position, this pawn is kind of hanging, so it's okay. But we'll go queen a5, and then they'll play b3, and then we'll go rook f to c8. And basically the point of that is if they go knight d5, and then they go for this intermezzo, as you can see, we win a knight. So that's why you bring the f rook over. But yeah, you go rook f, you go probably a rook f. In my notes here, no, I have rook fc in my notes, okay. So, actually I have a6 in my notes, but yeah, generally rook f c8 is better than rook a d8. And there's another reason why I'll show in a second. And you just, you go b5 here. And basically you're just trying to trade these pawns and just get something going. Like if you open up some lines and their space advantage is not so bad. It's also very tricky to play as white. Like I've always had a hard time as white playing this because there's all kinds of like knight takes e4 stuff in the air. So that's one plan. It's this queen a5, b5, rook f c8. Then there's the other plan, which is what I play these days, which is this A5 plan. Um, and basically the point is to make it hard to play B3 and sort of weaken this pawn and go queen B4, play on the dark squares. This is the more modern plan. Actually, if I check the database, A5 scores the best. Um, I'm not sure if this position even is like common theory, but I basically from what I've seen as the top guys, they like this A5, A4 stuff. They definitely like. I don't know. I feel like this is called the Gurganitsi system with the two knights. I feel like this is the most favored. I could be wrong. Okay, so yeah, there's one other plan I want to show. It's kind of like a bonus plan. I don't allow this knight C2 business, but if you do allow it, you kind of take and you like play on the dark squares, and because it's not so much about winning this pawn, it's more about like they can't take your knight, and you kind of just compensate for the dark square bishop. It's not my favorite. I'm a two bishop lover, so but it is an idea. Is taking on c3 double the pawns and then just like kind of like playing on the dark squares. Let me just play out some theory just so I get a good glimpse of how it can go. Oops, looks like it looks like that game didn't end up so well for black. But yeah. Yeah, I wanted to show some tactics in the bishop e6 plan. So this is a game I played on chess.com. And I went for the bishop e6 plan. Queen a5, just like clockwork. According to I didn't show the engine image, but right now my engine's saying plus 0.4, so it's really not that much. I went a6. I went b5. Already here I'm equal, so apparently white had to play knight a4 here, and yeah, we could have still prepared this b5 idea. So yeah, I went b5, and yeah, let's show a couple tactics. So cb5, the way to refute, not really refute it, but you take ab5, they take knight b5, you go queen d2, and there's all kinds of these lines where, sorry, cb5, see here, queen d2. There's all kinds of these lines where the two bishops, they're like hanging in the end. Yeah, here we can take on b3. Yeah, there's lots of lines like that. Yeah, you could also try knight g4, but you can get hit with bishop d4 in response, and this doesn't work because of f4. One thing you might try if you're dumb like me is I've tried this, and it looks nice because you're down in exchange right now, but then you get this nice fork until you lose like that, and you lose, and I have lost like this once, and I learned my lesson. Yeah, pretty bad. So the actual game it went like this. So he played knight d5. This is like the typical way white can try to get an advantage is with this knight d5 move. So I traded queens. Actually, there's nothing wrong with taking with the knight. On ed5, even though it's good to force it in the corner, even though we have this weakness, we have enough counterplay. So yeah, I don't know why I did that, but yeah, he took this way. I went knight d7, and this is like a chess problem, not like an opening problem why I won. Yeah, it turns out I was winning. He has no way to defend all of his pawns. Yeah, this was like a chess, like basically like out of chess position, and I played it and I won. But I mean, I could have lost his endgame, could have won it, but it was like it was up to me and my opponent, not up to the opening. Um, yeah, so those were typical tactics. And there's one last thing I wanted to show, which was, or this and one more, is d5 equalize versus everything. So there's this bishop e2 line. If you play the regular dragon, you might get this position with the pawn on d6, and I always like screw this position up somehow. D6 is kind of like a way to play for a win, keeps more pieces on the board. But if you just want to equalize, you can just play d5. Equalize versus everything. And yeah, you just get a chess game. And it's just, I mean, the equal material, you have a nice bishop on g7. That's basically your claim to fame. I mean, everything is equal, but whenever you equalize, at the end of the day, you get a nice bishop on g7, so you can play for something. That is why the other testing move is bishop c4, stops you from going d5. And there's a couple of decent lines here. One is you can go back into the regular dragon and avoid the 9 long castles line. I've been experimenting with queen a5 here. It kind of stops white from castling queenside because it threatens the pawn and stuff. So it's kind of natural. Yeah, and then there's one other idea I wanted to show, which is this knight d5 pawn sack idea. So this is one way white can play. Technically, the best move is knight g8, and you kind of play for this like French idea, which is to plant your knight on f4. But I like to play knight d5, which is a typical sack. Here, apparently white is a little bit better, but you get a lot of play. So yeah, it's kind of awkward for white to defend everything. So the computer move is the long castles, which is like crazy. You're just walking into a lot of stuff. You get lots of tempos, you get discoveries. The human move is bishop c4, and the computer claims black is already equal here. Defend your pawn and maybe play d6 or bishop e7. So yeah, so that's just a brief overview of Accelerated Dragon. Some tips and tricks. I can share more details in this opening later. I feel like it's a very good opening for club players. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching, folks.